Frankly, I'm tired of telling the story. So today, I'm going to let somebody else tell it. Let's get it.
I'm not a financial advisor.
Welcome to Armstrong Crypto. Don't just trade crypto, experience it. Guys, today, I'm going to present this video pretty much in its entirety without comment. And I'm not going to get too much into any of it. This is what I'll tell you guys. If you guys want to know why everything went down at Hit Network and BitBoy Crypto the way that it did, this video going over my lawsuit is going to explain it. However, I'm tired of talking about it. So Believes made a video on his channel about this, and it's amazing. You guys make sure to go subscribe to his channel. I'm going to repost it here right now. So you guys check this out. Drop your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think about this.
What is going on, true believers? It's time for us to kind of break down a few things that have been happening here lately. Things that you may have heard me jokingly talk about, or Ben Armstrong kind of jokingly talk about. We really haven't had a lot of clarity. You've heard some of the recordings, you've heard some of the tapes, stuff like that. It's nothing to do with Ben Coin. It has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with what, in my opinion, were a bunch of thieves trying to steal a company from somebody. Okay. And I'm going to take you through the scenario, and I'm going to lay it down for you so that you can make your own decision and your own determination. If you like this content, by the way, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the bell to be notified of future content. It's going to take a while because we're going to go through some legal finaglings, if you will, and try to figure out and break down exactly what we said was going on, what could be going on. Now, this was my tweet yesterday. Ben Armstrong has filed an emergency injunction. You can download these, by the way, here at these links on X. If you're not following me, it's at Believes Crypto. So Ben Armstrong has filed an emergency injunction to have the Hit Network and Discover Crypto placed into a receivership. A receivership is where somebody else is put in charge of it until such time as a resolution is achieved. So that, and we're going to go over the lawsuit why that is the case. But, basically, there was a certain value of this company at the time that Ben Armstrong was, we'll get into that in a few minutes, but when he was fired from the company that he is the majority stakeholder and owner of, and then they put out a restraining order to try to prevent him from getting access to verification of all these things so that they could then proceed to potentially commit fraud and hide assets and do a lot of different things that remember the Bitcoin the BitBoy crypto network, they had full wallets full of crypto. We even remember the moment when they dumped a bunch of Ben coin immediately after stealing, borrowing, whatever you call it, with Ben's wallet, the wallet that he considered his personal wallet. So service has been rendered to the offending parties for an emergency motion of receivership and to request that the courts appoint a receiver to handle the affairs of the disputed organization going forward. In addition, a claim was filed by the members of the Hit Network of assault, and the charges against Mr. Armstrong were dismissed recently as unfounded. And you will see some of the names, or at least one of the names, of somebody who said some outlandish claims of assault from Ben Armstrong. Just wild stuff here, where grown men who don't act like grown men. I think in Donald Trump land that was called locker room talk. And if you're a supporter of Donald Trump and that locker room stuff is happening around you and you're defending, does that make you a little baby? Does it? If you're crying about the same thing, or is it just because you lied that's not real? You have to ask yourself that question. I can't answer that for you. But the police did, and they said it was unfounded. So a copy of this is also available in public record. I did not link that because it does include the name of the person. So if you would like to go check that out, you can check that out yourself. Despite what anyone may think personally of Ben Armstrong, these individuals allegedly conspired repeatedly and as outlined in the attached filings to steal his company from him and to, in violation of RICO statutes, transfer and move tangible assets around to avoid taxes and payment to Mr. Armstrong for his property. You can download the complaint and the emergency order for receivership above. Also know that you have listened to and heard multiple conversations in which TJ Shed freely admitted that the attempted theft of his company was based upon him being fired. And we did listen to that recording. There's no question about that. That is exactly what he said. Ben said, what you're doing, and TJ with David Thiel, by the way, who is that is the guy from a Christian fellowship organization who was trying to be a third party in this. To me, sounds corrupt, but that's just my opinion. TJ said, "Well, I had to do something because you were firing me because Ben had told him take your 33% and go home and just leave the company because you won't fire Justin Williams because for some reason Justin Williams is an important piece, which we'll get to in just a few minutes here. But this thing is kind of simmering here at this point, and TJ decides that he's going to attempt a hostile takeover of the company at this point because I mean, you could say that Ben used mean words. He no likey Ben, or he's a backstabbing troll. I mean, you don't know. Really, you just guess, right? Finally, make sure that you pick up the Sunday copy of the New York Times. You should find some incredible research in this situation. Now, there's been some interviews done with some major publications that you're going to see coming up over the next couple of days. And a little bit of it's probably not going to be friendly to Ben because, we still have, there are still situations that Ben is accountable for that he made some choices and those choices didn't work to his favor overall or reputation, if you will. But regardless of that, that was personal business and that was his personal life that he was dealing with. And in this world, personal is personal until it's not. When you have a group of backstabbing people around you, those people will do seedy, shady, garbage moves. And I believe that you saw that in that TJ Shed. I believe even at this point, the head of content creation over there, Nick DeMondi, refused to even participate in this shady scumbag move. But I believe they went to Ben Armstrong's house to tell his wife, like, you're grown men. Are you really? And you did it. You did it in the name of religion, fellowship. And the guy that was delivering the news is the guy that was sleeping with a married woman that was his assistant, who then ended up divorcing her husband and but he was paying her, right? So he was paying her as his assistant for whatever assistance she was providing. I believe her name was Allison Fiveash. We're going to look at the legal document for that determination in just a few moments. I don't think that maybe that's not it. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe there's somebody. I don't know. You never know. But also there's pictures of her and her cousin with the guy that stole a bunch of Bitcoin from people, some Bitcoin thief. So it's an intriguing story. This is incredible. So we're going to get into it and we're going to break this all down for you. And we're going to start with the emergency order. Okay. That's the easiest way to get going here. The emergency order is this. Ben Armstrong has filed a plaintiff's emergency motion for a preliminary injunction against the defendants and the appointment of a receiver. And that is to Carlos Diaz, who also has an alias Larry Smith. And the reason that he has an alias, it's my understanding, and I'm not sure about this, but I did look at the documents, and it is because Carlos Diaz, also known as Larry Smith, is a criminal who has used terroristic threatening, and kidnapping in order to sway people, and he's gone to jail for it. And he works for these guys. So then you have Timothy Shed Jr., Timothy Shed Sr., who Ben hired as a favor to TJ, which is Timothy Shed Jr. And then you have Justin Williams, and then you have Allison Fiveash, and then Nicholas DeMondi. So what is being requested here is defendant Timothy Shed and others, including but not limited to Carlos Diaz illegally and wrongfully ousted Armstrong from businesses in which Armstrong held majority and controlling interest. The defendant stole Armstrong's business and stole his property. Shed, along with others, continue to defraud Armstrong by continuing to illegally operate Armstrong businesses and attempting to sell property for which they have no authority to sell. He is, in fact, still the majority owner. The facts support plaintiff's claim are set forth in the verified complaint as amended and incorporated herein. The complaint alleges, inter alia, civil claims against the defendant pursuant to the Georgia Racketeer Influence and Corrupt. This is a RICO statute. Such claims are predicated, and we're going to skip through this right here. We're going to go to the court should grant a preliminary injunction against defendants and should appoint a receiver over the defendants and or their assets. In a dispute over ownership rights in property, preservation of both sides' rights to the property is essential. A preliminary injunction and appointment of a receiver is the most logical way to protect all parties from harm during the pendency of this case. The businesses subject to this litigation are now failing because of the defendant's wrongful actions. Defendants are now selling off property in which they have no authority to sell. They are doing that in order to get revenue, in order to continue paying people. Fantastic amount of people, by the way. You're going to see this is going to floor you when you see what's happened here. Okay, without an injunction and any appointment of a receiver, the assets subject to this action will continue to dissipate and be worthless. They're selling off the business because they owe him a bunch of money and they don't want to pay him his money for his company. This is a garbage move from, allegedly garbage people. The granting and continuance of injunction shall always rest in the sound discretion of the judge according to the circumstance of each case. This power shall be prudently and cautiously exercised, and except in clear and urgent cases should not be resorted to. A trial court has broad discretion to fashionable equitable remedies based upon the exigencies of each case, and the Supreme Court of Georgia has held that a trial court should craft an injunction in a manner that is at least oppressive to the defendant while still protecting the valuable rights of the plaintiff. Georgia appellate courts will not disturb a trial court decision to grant or demand interlocutory injunctions. A trial court may grant an interlocutory injunction to maintain the status quo until a final hearing. By balancing the relative equities of the parties, it would appear that the equities favor the party seeking the injunction. Now, of course, we'll have to go back 9 months or so to find out exactly what, if anything, the Shed people, the Demandi people, the Five Ash people, the Diaz people, what they've done, what they've taken, what they've liquidated in order to meet their payroll, to meet their obligations. Payroll's totaling, I think, $250,000 a year. You might be looking at that saying, what? Yeah. That's a lot of people on the payroll. Now, why were the people on the payroll? I don't know, because they seem to be doing it fine with like 12 people now. But for some reason, they had like 66 people, I want to say. So stick with me here. In the instant matter, the defendants illegally stole and ousted Armstrong from businesses in which he is the majority owner. Armstrong is and was the personality of the operations. Defendants have also marketed for sale, offered for sale, and sold real property, acquiring cash in which they used to further the RICO enterprise and for personal gain. The defendants acquired and maintained hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dollars in property, personal and real, through their illegal RICO enterprises. Granting a preliminary injunction and the appointment of a receiver is necessary to protect and preserve the assets for plaintiff and creditors. If the defendants are allowed unrestricted access to their real and personal property, which they utilize to promote and further the RICO enterprises, there is a manifest danger of loss and destruction of assets, which would result in material injury to plaintiff. Specifically, there exists a clear and present danger to plaintiffs that defendants have and are attempting to hide their assets, which are subject to the litigation. If the preliminary injunction is not immediately granted to bar any future transfer of property, plaintiff will suffer great harm. To this point, they've not paid Ben Armstrong a dime after stealing the company. After ousting the majority and controlling owner of the company. And as required under Georgia law, they have not paid. So if they are selling assets in order to make their payroll and in order to keep people liquid, if you will, without partnerships or sponsors in order to pay them, and we do have evidence, of course, that they are buying subscribers and they are buying comments in their videos, which we've shown evidence of on Twitter, then you have to ask yourself, what exactly are they doing? So But to move on here, wherefore plaintiff moves that the court grant its emergency motion for preliminary injunction and the appointment of a receiver based upon the verified complaint and such evidence, if any, as may be presented at a hearing. Now, this means that as the majority owner, Ben Armstrong is entitled to know exactly what every dollar is being used for, despite that he may no longer be with the company, because he still maintains and is the majority holder. And since the hit networks and the discover cryptos and the blockchains in the basement and the blockchains that are around, since all of those people have refused compliance, you're left with no choice, obviously. So this has been filed, and the hope here is that somebody other than somebody who's in this group of people will be placed in charge, because those people cannot be trusted. Ben Armstrong was ousted from a company that was generating $1 million a month from a single sponsor. Ben Armstrong is entitled to 2/3 of all EBITDA earnings, and would therefore be subject to getting a lot of money, because if you consider that they were getting $1 million a month from stake, and payroll was 250,000, overhead was somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000, that means $700,000 minimum per month. He would have a share of the profits of, meaning that over the course of 12 months, that's 8.4 million, to which he would be entitled to 60% at least of that, because he is a 66% owner. So 2/3 of $8 million is what he would be entitled to. And general purchase or buyout of an organization would be over between 3 to 5 years. Even if a judge is overseeing these actions, it would be a minimum of 3 years, meaning that it's about $25 million, which means that Ben Armstrong at this point is probably entitled to $18 to $19 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. And they have offered nothing. I'm sorry, they offered a 5-year payment plan of no amount. Keep that in mind. Now, we're going to go on to it, and it's going to get a little bit lengthy. I apologize that it's taking so long, but we'll take a little bit of time. And we are going to skip a lot to get to what we're doing here. And this is basically, this right here is the First Amendment verified complaint. This is the filing that Ben has submitted against Carlos Diaz / Larry Smith, the criminal with the extortion, the one we already went over. Then we have Timothy and Timothy Shedd Sr., and then we have Justin Williams, Allison Fiveash, and Nicholas DeMondi. And then we're going to come down here, statement of facts. And then the statement of facts is Armstrong launched the BitBoy. And I want you to follow this timeline. Armstrong launched the BitBoy Crypto YouTube channel in 2018, in which he initially produced 2 videos each day from the basement of his home. The BitBoy Crypto YouTube channel grew in popularity with the increase of viewers. I should put that on the screen. Armstrong launched the BitBoy Crypto YouTube channel in 2018, in which he initially produced 2 videos each day from the basement of his home. The BitBoy Crypto YouTube channel grew in popularity with the increase of viewers. In 2019, Armstrong incorporated his BitBoy Crypto business and established High Throughput Productions, in which he was the sole owner. Timothy Shedd Jr., who at the time was a crypto enthusiast and operated the crypto brand known as Young Dumb Crypto, apt, was a viewer fan of the BitBoy Crypto YouTube channel and decided to contact Armstrong, whereby they began to casually discuss cryptocurrency-related topics. Armstrong and Shedd began a professional relationship in 2019 when Shedd, who at the time was employed by a marketing agency known as Coinbound, assisted Armstrong in securing sponsorships for the BitBoy Crypto brand. Throughout 2020, Armstrong experienced an extraordinary increase in popularity with the number of viewers of his BitBoy Crypto YouTube channel. Armstrong and Shedd's professional relationship turned into a friendship in which Armstrong at the time believed he could trust Shedd. As a result of his growing business, Armstrong realized he needed help in the operations of the business. Armstrong made the decision to enlist the services of Shedd. Shedd's duties were the oversight of the 2 employees and providing assistance with some of the creative content of the production. So in 2020, when BitBoy had about 1 million subscribers or 700,000 subscribers, 2 employees It's important when we get to it later. Specifically, in late 2020, Armstrong offered Shed 33% of the business, for which Shed was to manage the day-to-day operation and finances of the company, while Armstrong continued to be the charismatic personality and entertainer of the production. Shed accepted Armstrong's offer, which resulted in the establishment of BJ Investments. That's the BJ Investment Company, where the throughput business was placed under the new ownership arrangement. So it's been TJ's BJ. You know what it means. When Shed accepted Armstrong's offer, High Throughput had assets valued at approximately $7 million. And Armstrong's YouTube channel had a following of over 600,000 subscribers. Shortly after BJ Investments was established, Shed hired his father, Timothy Shed Sr., as the chief financial officer to manage the company's finances. Defendant Justin Williams, who was an acquaintance of Armstrong's, was hired soon thereafter as vice president of NFT development, and that's for the company called Vumio, which we'll get into in just a little while. At all relevant times, Armstrong had full trust in Shed Sr. and Williams' ability to fulfill the responsibilities of their roles within the company. Armstrong never imagined that Shed Sr. and Williams would devise a scheme whereby they, with other defendants, would illegally oust him from his businesses by fraud and by defaming him, discrediting him, extorting him, and threatening him with bodily harm in order to take full ownership and control of the business in which Armstrong held the majority ownership. Now, let's take a moment here and say there were a lot of allegations here, defaming, discrediting, extorting, threatening with bodily harm in order to take full ownership of the company. And guys, I want to stress this. During most of this, I was in conversation and communication with Ben Armstrong and can verify that he had every one of these concerns to the point that they were tracking him using AirPods, air tags to secure his location so that they could threaten further. And I was privy to this information, which we're sharing with you right now. But I digress, continue. Shed and others developed various intercorporate schemes to defraud Armstrong. At all relevant times, Armstrong's company, Better Than TJ, owned 67% of BJ Investment, and Shed's company, TJSJ Holdings, owned 33% of BJ Investment. Shed, throughout his business relationship with Armstrong, created multiple corporations in which Armstrong was always the majority owner, and in which Shed was to handle the day-to-day operations of each. These ventures included at least 6 additional YouTube channels and shows, including but not limited to Blockchain Basement, NFT Alpha, Hit Network, Around the Blockchain, Hit Music, Hit Factory, and Bearish or Bullish. Most of these Shed ventures, even with the financial support and public endorsement by Armstrong, and Shed's attempt to replicate Armstrong's accomplishment in the media proved futile, were unsuccessful, and yielded no significant revenue. Shed also purportedly invested company funds into such things such as non-cryptocurrency related ventures, including a chiropractic office owned by a friend of Shed's, a $50,000 loan to Shed's sister to create some eye doctor curriculum, a software company, a record contract, $1.5 million in payments to the Players Lounge, and real estate properties. During the course of Armstrong and Shed's partnership, Shed created or established approximately 20 different companies to conduct various businesses on behalf of Armstrong and Shed, the existence of which were unknown, some of which were unknown by Armstrong. Shed intentionally withheld all substantive information regarding the purported investments he made from Armstrong. In furtherance of the RICO scheme, Shed Sr. and Williams created various intercorporate schemes and devices amongst themselves to defraud Armstrong, BJ Investments, and other companies. For instance, in September of 2021, Williams, this is Justin Williams, oversaw an NFT project named Pluto Alliance that launched in October of 2021. The NFTs from that project sold out for $3.2 million. Williams received 20% of all NFT projects launched with BitBoy Crypto. By 2022, Williams had launched a 2.0 version of this project, and Armstrong began receiving complaints from Pluto Alliance holders accusing Williams of stealing from the treasury. Armstrong would bring these concerns to Shed, who assured Armstrong that Williams was not stealing and that the Pluto Alliance holders were simply ungrateful for everything Justin Williams had done for them. Another example occurred in November of 2021, where Justin Williams did an unauthorized and undisclosed ad on the NFT Alpha he hosted on Armstrong's channel. This resulted in $10,000 of personal gain to Williams and not BJ Investments. Shed and others devised a scheme to steal Ben Armstrong's business. The BitBoy Crypto brand began to grow as a result of Armstrong's following. BitBoy Crypto had over 1.4 million YouTube subscribers by mid 2023. At all relevant times, the BitBoy crypto brand and the influential persona of Armstrong was the principal source of income for BJ Investments while financially supporting the other ventures. Initially, Armstrong had a full trust in Shed and Senior, who Shed hired in their ability to properly manage their various businesses. However, over a short period, that perception started to change. Armstrong never imagined that Shed would devise a scheme whereby Shed, with defendant and others, would illegally steal Armstrong's business and other properties by fraud, in addition to defaming him, discrediting him, extorting him, and threatening him with bodily harm in order to take full ownership and control of the business. With the growth and success of the BitBoy crypto brand and the opportunities it brought, BJ Investments were highly profitable in the year 2021. Based upon information and belief, BJ Investments held crypto assets valued at $40 million at the peak of the market and owned several real estate properties, including but not limited to properties located in Ackworth, Georgia. And by the way, these are public record. Kennesaw, Georgia, Kennesaw, Georgia, Kennesaw, Georgia. Each one of these addresses you can read for yourself. Here you can see it on the screen. In which some company employees were tenants. As early as April of 2021, Armstrong and Shed discussed separating and going their separate ways. Armstrong wanted to end his business relationship with Shed due in part to Shed's lack of management and business skill. Unfortunately for Armstrong, Shed convinced Armstrong that disentangling their business instruments would be exceedingly challenging and would take several years. Subsequently, they reached an agreement to work through their differences and committed to maintaining their partnership. In July of 2021, Armstrong, frustrated with things such as the lack of structure from BJ Investments subsidiaries, which Shed was supposed to be handling, suggested to Shed that he enroll in a Christian executive and business training program presented by David Thiel, a program in which Armstrong was enrolled at the time. Armstrong thought the Thiel program would help Shed develop business leadership skills required to get the company structured. Shortly thereafter, Shed did begin to attend the course. Shed, after convincing Armstrong not to terminate the partnership based on Shed's incompetence, decided to take control of BJ Investments and its subsidiaries and steal them away from Armstrong rather than to work with Armstrong. In furtherance of the RICO scheme, by the summer of 2022, Shed, with the assistance of Williams, hired in excess of 60 employees, many of which were personal friends of theirs, in order to create loyalty for whatever wrongful and illegal acts the defendants were undertaking. There was absolutely no need for such a large employer base. Remember, by the way, this company was operated out of a basement, and at 600,000 followers on YouTube, only had 2 other employees for TJ Shed to manage. So for some reason, they went from this to needing 60 employees. So make what you will of that. Company can hire whomever it wants, obviously, but it's only an opinion that it was excessive. So in August of 2022, Armstrong again insisted that the partnership end after seeing no improvement by Shed in his administrative or managerial skills. In addition, Tim Shed Sr. lost $3 million of company funds based on incompetence and mismanagement. For the second time, Shield convinced Armstrong not to terminate the partnership, stating to Armstrong that he would improve all, while Shed and the other defendants were slowly and methodically stealing companies and properties from him. By the end of 2022, Shed, Williams, and other defendants continued to hire their friends and other people who would be loyal to them while terminating or eliminating any employees who they believed to be loyal to Armstrong. And that's very important to remember when, we saw the hostage video, and, there's a lot of people who are no longer there, and you have to wonder why they're no longer there. Either they were not able to be afforded, or because they were being ferreted out. Shed and others jeopardized $15 million sponsorship deal. By the end of 2022, and in furtherance of their scheme to steal Armstrong's businesses, Shed and Sr. had established complete and full control of the company's finances, whereby they and the other defendants removed Armstrong's name and authority to the company's financial accounts and information without Armstrong's knowledge, consent, or approval. In February of 2023, Armstrong hired Cassandra Wolf on a contractual basis to facilitate the acquisition of brand sponsors. Now Armstrong directed Wolf to work with Shed to finalize the terms of her work contract. Despite her concerns with Shed's reluctance to finalize a compensation agreement, Wolf was reaching out to potential sponsors and had begun negotiations with them. That same month, Armstrong was notified that he would no longer be receiving referral income from Bybit for promotions on BitBoy Crypto. This was the company's primary income source. Despite the numerous conversations with Shed emphasizing the necessity of reaching a compensation agreement with Wolf to secure the deal with a major sponsor, Shed maintained that the standard 10% commission was too substantial and would upset others working. Armstrong explained this to Wolf, and she agreed to a 5% commission. Despite ongoing conversations between Armstrong and Shed, wherein Shed also agreed to Wolf receiving 5% commission. Then Wolf inquired once again about finalizing her compensation agreement. Shed told her they would discuss appropriate compensation for her once the agreement with the sponsor was finalized. Armstrong confronted Shed about his dishonesty and jeopardizing the sponsorship deal, threatening to terminate him. In an effort to safeguard her interests, Armstrong and Wolf signed a contract agreement as a precautionary measure, ensuring she had a protective agreement in place if the need arose. Later, Wolf would also arrange for her compensation to be directly paid by the sponsor. Now, let's stop right there and remember, part of the reason that that TJ Shed gave for this happening was because what he needed to do. One of the allegations was that he was paying that Ben Armstrong was paying for his quote unquote mistress. I believe they used as the words that he was paying someone for an inappropriate relationship. And it should be argued and noted right now, TJ Shed Jr. lied to you. At no point was Cassandra Wolf, compensated by this company. She was compensated by her sponsorship deal, which was agreed upon. And we do have copies of the email, of course, with TJ Shed Jr. and with Ben Armstrong. So you were deceived and manipulated and lied to by TJ Shed Jr. about the compensation program. And this is just another web of the entirety of these lies that are happening at this point. But let's continue. As she did not trust Shed and Senior to pay her as agreed, she was compensated directly from stake. This potential sponsor aspired to establish a partnership with BitBoy Crypto, not solely on the channel's substantial subscriber base, but on account of Armstrong's polarizing public persona and prominence within the cryptocurrency industry. On March 27, 2023, Wolf successfully brokered a 15-month, $15 million sponsorship contract with a sponsor for the BitBoy Crypto brand, referred to herein as Sponsor X. This sponsorship not only represented the largest in the history of the company, but also served as a crucial lifeline for the company, helping it overcome significant financial challenges directly caused by Shed and the defendants. Despite this, Shed and others consistently failed to meet the production deliverables as required. The Sponsor X contract stipulated a specific set of daily deliverables that needed to be fulfilled on the BitBoy Crypto YouTube channel. Armstrong's personal Twitter account and Instagram account, Shed and other defendants were responsible for the fulfillment of the daily deliverables. Despite several conversations between Armstrong and Shed had failed to delegate these responsibilities appropriately so as to prioritize their completion or provide structure or oversight to ensure these deliverables were being met. So there was an agreement in part and in place that TJ Shed was to execute in order to achieve success based on the contract by doing certain deliverables. And those would be ads placed on all of these different outlets for sponsorship, and he couldn't even do that. He failed. So let's continue. In May of 2023, after 6 weeks of consistently failing to meet the deliverables, Sponsor X voiced their apprehension regarding the network's capability to fulfill the agreed upon expectations and the probability of canceling the contract due to non-performance. While Wolf's contract responsibilities ended with the finalization of the Sponsor X contract, Shed protested and insisted that his friend be charged with overseeing the Sponsor X contract. Armstrong hired Wolf to manage the Sponsor X deal to ensure compliance with the deliverables, despite Shed's objection. Despite Wolf's acceptance of a reduced commission rate, Shed and Senior swiftly disseminated this information throughout the office, intentionally sowing discontent and resentment among other employees. Now, what manager tells employees or other people how much individuals are making within their company? That's some lowbrow scumbag stuff that grown-ups, they just don't do in business. That's a trust. That's an inviolable trust that a business should have, or at least a management staff should have, that employees are not finding out about the income of other employees. That is some lowbrow, shady level garbage play. Anybody in business, everybody in business understands that fundamentally. At all times relevant, Shed was the controlling person of the illegal enterprise, directing the other defendants with the plan to overtake control and complete ownership of BJ Investments by wrongfully and illegally freezing out Armstrong from the various businesses that Armstrong owned as a majority owner, thereby stealing Armstrong's property. herein RICO enterprise. At all times relevant, Senior was a co-conspirator and participant of the RICO enterprise. Senior reported directly to Shed and followed his direction to further the RICO enterprise. At all times relevant, Five Ash was a co-conspirator and participant of the RICO enterprise. Five Ash reported directly to Shed and followed his direction to further the RICO enterprise. At all time relevant, Williams was a co-conspirator and did same. At all times relevant, Nick DeMondi was a co-conspirator and did same. At all times relevant, defendant Carlos and Diaz, aka Larry Diaz, was a co-conspirator and participate. As set forth, Diaz also proclaimed to be a member of the Black Mafia family, a well-known drug trafficking and money laundering organization, and had a history of violent acts, which we have revealed to you before. He did serve prison time for extortion and terroristic threats. It's a lot of, you can go look this up for yourself. He used his proclamation and narrative to inter alia intimidate and convince Armstrong that Diaz's threats of harm against Armstrong would be carried out if Armstrong did not comply with Shed and the other defendants' demands. Now, it should be noted at this moment that we even had a statement from Ben Armstrong's wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, that in fact she also heard, and there is a recording of it, that Ben Armstrong would find himself under a prison if he didn't comply with what they wanted. And when he said, and I believe that it was Carlos Larry Diaz Smith who said, "Look at this, what I was saying was, I'm not saying you're gonna kill him, I mean, or whatever he said. I don't remember the exact words, but Ben Armstrong's now estranged wife said, no, that's not it. No, we understood it to be exactly what he was doing. He was threatening Ben that if he didn't do what he wanted, something very bad would happen to him. Okay, so just to clear that up at this point. Because of his extensive criminal history, it is believed Diaz changed his name from Larry Smith to Diaz to hide his criminal history. In mid-2023, Armstrong, who had already frustrated on how Shed ran the day-to-day operations and had at least on 2 previous occasions attempted to end the partnership, began to take action as the majority owner. On July 31, Armstrong instructed Shed to terminate Williams for his repeated failure to follow Armstrong's directives. Shed ignored the request. Williams was never terminated. On August of 2023, Armstrong voiced his frustration and concern to Shed that no company taxes had been filed. On August 15, Armstrong sent a text to Shed voicing his frustration from Senior's incompetence and threatened to terminate Senior's employment since Shed refused to do so. On February of 2023, Armstrong expressed his frustration regarding Senior to Shed due to Senior's practice of ignoring Armstrong's request and openly challenging Armstrong's decisions. Armstrong told Shed he would terminate Senior's employment if the issue was not addressed. On multiple occasions, Armstrong complained of not having a company debit card. Shed and Senior never provided him with a debit card to the company bank account, leaving him without access to company funds. On August 20, Armstrong notified Shed that he, as a majority member, was removing Shed from BJ Investments and its subsidiaries, and that Shed, Senior, and Williams were not to return to work in the office. In response to this firing, Shed attempted numerous times to contact Armstrong, to which Armstrong responded in a text below, and here we have, "Stop calling me." This is August 20. This is from Ben Armstrong. "Stop calling me. Unless it's a biz question during work hours, you've lost the right to talk to me. I didn't have one friend in that entire office, not one. So I'll handle it, but you don't get to be part of it or anything I do going forward. And as soon as I can, I'm going to find someone to do your job, and you can take your 33% and go home and collect it. I'll be at work tomorrow on time to do my job." So, and that's important. On August 21, even though he had not been terminated the day before by Armstrong, Shed appeared, even though he had been terminated, Shed appeared at the BJ investment offices where Armstrong met with him. Armstrong reiterated his decision as majority owner to terminate Shed, Senior, and Williams, and they were not to return to the BJ investment or company offices. On August 21, after ignoring Armstrong's directive as majority owner that Shed, Senior, and Williams be removed and terminated, Shed and other participants of the repo and changed the locks to the BJ investment office building and placed off-duty law enforcement at the office who were instructed to prohibit Armstrong from entering his own company's offices. Now, after Shed's termination and when Armstrong directed Shed not to contact him, Diaz began to threaten Armstrong for the purpose of intimidating Armstrong to make some sort of deal with Shed so that Shed, Senior, and Williams could stay as employees. Armstrong refused. Then when Shed, and by the way, just to give you guys some context, I want you to know, August 20, that was my first day going on to the BitBoy Crypto Show to talk about Bencoin. At the time, I was asked to come in and go into the green room where I would then be prepped, mic checked, et cetera, et cetera. And if you go back and you watch that video, I sat in there. Nobody showed up to try to prep me to make sure that I was ready for whatever was going to happen on the show so that I had a list of questions or anything like that. They absolutely ignored me. And I even stressed to Cassie and Ben after the fact that, like they didn't even like, wasn't I supposed to, like something was supposed to happen here? They left me hanging, and it was obvious and evident at that point to me anyway, in my opinion, there was something going on. And I'd even commented to people that I know, like something really weird is happening over at Hit Networks because like these guys seem to be like arguing with Ben over like it's Ben's company. Like, why are they trying to tell him what to do and what they will or won't do? It's very, very weird. Okay. And by the way, you can ask my friends, they'll remember. So then, going back to that, on August 21, Armstrong and others left for Denver, Colorado to attend a cryptocurrency conference, East Denver. On August 22nd, Armstrong Shed began illegally amending operations agreement of various entities in which Armstrong was the majority shareholder to reflect Shed as the sole member and owner of not only BJ Investments, but some of its subsidiary companies. On August 23rd, in furtherance of the illegal scheme, Shed began calling employee AJ Pleasanton and told him Armstrong was using hard drugs, attempting to bribe him with 3 Ethereum, approximately 5,600 at the time of payment, and almost 10 times Pleasanton's weekly pay. Now, AJ has gone on record in saying that at no point had anybody ever offered him anything, but AJ was having some car trouble, and out of nowhere, TJ offered him money to fix his car. On August 26th, while Armstrong was in Denver, Shed and Armstrong mutually agreed over text message to engage in mediation proceedings to negotiate Shed's buyout from the company. And let me tell you what you want. Would be best if you could write something down and I'll look over it and then we can talk. I'm not really sure what you're expecting. Did you have something in mind? I need to know what's it going to take to get you out of the building. Is there something we can work out where you go to Vimeo? I'll sign over all my shares and you and Justin can have the majority of that. I'll be motivated to promote it because of the investors. Maybe I keep a small percentage so I still have skin in the game, but you guys will make millions on the token launch, I'm sure. At the end of the day, this is over and I need you, your dad and Justin, out of the building. And we need to figure out how to accomplish this. There is no going back. So think about it. Maybe we should hire a mediator and go through a third party. I want to be fair. I'm sad to hear that's how you feel, but also understand how hard it would be to go back. That feels a bit one-sided to me, but let me put some thought into this. A mediator is probably a good idea. I understand it will take more than just that. Think about it, and we can inquire about a mediator on Monday. That mediator, by the way, was going to be David Thiel, which we'll get back to in just a few moments here. In response to Armstrong's actions of removing Shed Sr. and Williams from the business, Shed Sr., Williams, Diaz, and others expedited the implementation of another phase of their illegal scheme by freezing Armstrong out of BJ Investments and taking it over. In furtherance of their scheme, defendants stole Armstrong's YouTube channel and changed all the passwords to all of the internet platform and channels, locking Armstrong completely out of BJ Investments. On August 27, 2023, in furtherance of the illegal scheme, Shed delivered a letter to Armstrong dated August 25, stating that he was being removed from BJ Investments in every aspect, including ownership, on the baseless claim that he had disrupted the business. He had no authority to take action against Armstrong. After the bogus August 25 letter was delivered to Armstrong, Shed Sr., Williams, and Diaz began their relentless attacks on Armstrong to force him, by inter alia extortion, to sign over all business-related assets and even personal assets to and for the benefit of the defendants. Shed Sr. and Williams and defendant Allison Fiveash had access and control of Armstrong's personal accounts and logins, including but not limited. And at this point, it should be recognized that Allison Fiveash was the assistant of Ben Armstrong, who it is my understanding spent an inordinate amount of time with Carlos Diaz, which I don't know the reason for that, but they seem to be on very friendly terms, according to Ben. His social media accounts, email addresses, bank accounts, cell phone provider, Apple ID, tile tracking account, which, again, I told you that before, GoDaddy domain management account, Ticketmaster, and crypto wallet addresses. Remember, all of this stuff was inside the building, which is why some of this stuff was going down. Defendants stole Armstrong's personal accounts, accessed them, and attempted to and did track Armstrong's activity. Now, at this point, I should state for the record here, I was on the phone with Ben multiple times where he was wondering how Carlos Diaz was showing up at his door, knocking on his door when he was in a hotel that they had no reason to know. Now, it turned out that they had been accessing his Apple tags, which were in luggage bags. There was one on his phone. They were using that in order to find Ben Armstrong, in order to send Carlos Diaz to his location to talk to him. Carlos Diaz, I might add, the Black Mafia family, the one who went to prison for extorting. Okay, so that's who we have. That's who we have at this point. So let's continue. On August 28th, Shed accessed Armstrong's BitBoy crypto YouTube channel and made the announcement that Armstrong had been removed from the company. And then here are all of those. The announcement is false in its entirety. On August 31, defendants posted a YouTube video on the BitBoy YouTube channel hosted by Shed and defendant Nick DiMondi. The show opened with Shed reading the following statements. And then after he did that same day, under the direction of Shed, Morrill Crawford sent a newsletter out to over 70,000 individuals subscribed to the BitBoy channel email listing with the following: "Hello, Bit Squad. It's been a huge week, blah, blah, blah." There was no benefit to the business to make such an announcement to the industry and the company's followers and subscribers. And by the way, I do want to add at this point that after TJ did his thing, the screen then switched over to Nick DiMondi, who said, if you're looking for people to talk bad about BitBoy Crypto, Ben Armstrong, you're not going to find that here. If you're looking for us to talk bad about him, you're not going to find that him. Before proceeding to go on to Twitter and X and continue to talk bad about him almost nonstop. So in case you wonder what a hypocrite is like, there you have it. So anyway, then we move forward. In furtherance of defendant's scheme to ruin and discredit Armstrong's good reputation and wear him down, he would succumb to their will. Defendant exposed Armstrong's extramarital affair to his wife. Now, look, you can not like, or you can like, you can not care, whatever. But these guys are shady, seedy scumbags that they have no business with his wife to begin with. She doesn't work for the company. She's not employed the company. And they don't have any business disclosing personal information, I might add. And let's be specific. This is an employer, and an employer revealed personal details regarding an employee to a private citizen, if that private citizen is the wife. That is some shady level garbage play by some shady level garbage people. In furtherance of the illegal scheme, the defendant continuously threatened Armstrong, including death threats. Defendant communicated to Armstrong that if he did not pay millions of dollars to them, they would put him under the concrete. Under the concrete means to kill someone in the criminal world. This was verified again by Ben Armstrong's estranged wife. In furtherance of their illegal scheme, defendants continuously communicated, intimidated, and threatened Armstrong with false representations. There were ongoing investigations into the business affairs. Folks, I must add at this point, you have listened to the messages. You've heard the conversations. I will even reference one of the people who talks very bad and very poorly about Ben Armstrong, and that is Rodney Sorensen from My Crypto Journey. He listened to them and in a moment of clarity realized and even said as much, and you can find his videos at My Crypto Journey, and you can see exactly what he said about the conversations that were being held between Carlos Diaz, who had no business negotiating anything for a business he was not an employee of, and Ben Armstrong. But you don't have to take my word for that. You don't have to take Rodney's word for that. You just play back the tape. Anyway, in fact, there was no evidence that any such investigation ever took place. There was an investigation that was happening at the office. This was simply a ploy to frighten, intimidate, and coerce Armstrong to succumb to defendant's demands. On October 30th, after the defendant was wrongfully removed from his businesses, placed security at the business to prohibit him from entering, stole all of his internet programs, gained all access to his personal and banking information, social media, and other accounts, threatened to ruin his reputation, defamed him, contacted his wife about an affair, stalked him, and terminated all compensation to him. Now a fully beaten man sent a message to Shed, Williams, and Diaz stating basically that he was giving up and that defendants had succeeded in their illegal schemes. And at this point, this is when the narrative did change, and he was instructed or coerced into creating what really turned out to be for Ben Armstrong, his own hostage video. On September 6th, Shed, in a conversation with Armstrong, admitted that Armstrong had told him that the partnership had ended. Below is a transcript of part of the conversation between Armstrong and Shed, and this is available digitally. You can listen to it. Okay, I was just basically, you made it very clear that there was no, you and I were not going forward. We were not moving forward, that we were done. We were separating. You made that very clear to me, and you communicated to me, right? Like I didn't, that I didn't really want that, right? Okay. And I had to, I had no choice. And this, yes, this has gone way further than anything I ever would have thought. And remember, this was a conversation that Ben was recording because he knew about it in Georgia, as long as one person, one party knows. And this was, by the way, being mediated with David Thiel. And by the way, didn't show up to it, and had to stop and ask Justin Williams a couple times along the way, TJ, I guess, for pointers on what to say or something like that. I'm not sure. Anyway, then the 2018 Lamborghini was stolen. At all relevant times, Armstrong owned and held the title in his personal name to a 2018 Lamborghini. On August 30th, 2023, Diaz had a telephone conversation with Armstrong's wife, Bethany, in which he makes threats against Armstrong, including that Diaz will ruin Armstrong's reputation, put Armstrong in jail, and put Armstrong under the concrete if Armstrong doesn't pay $1 million to Diaz that day. Bethany relayed the threats to Armstrong, who then contacted Diaz, at which time confirmed his threats and continued his extortion, directing Armstrong to sign over the title of the Lamborghini to Diaz the next day. At all relevant times. Now, by the way, I will say at this point, I was in communication with Ben. He was in fear for his life because he thought that this person from the Black family mafia people of, I don't know, this Muppet organization, whatever they are, that he was going to do something, or that he was capable of doing something. And by the way, one of the charges against him is kidnapping. So just so you guys are aware. At all relevant times, Diaz was not an employee nor an officer of any of the parties or companies in the lawsuit. In fact, Diaz held no position with any of the companies. Rather, Diaz was acting as Shed's direction as a co-conspirator and participating in a RICO enterprise. Diaz obtained the Lamborghini by extortion, claiming the money was needed to pay for lawsuits filed against BJ Investment as a result of Armstrong's alleged bad act. Now, when you hear the conversations, and they are recorded, remember, we did hear these, and he asked for, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything illegal. Why are you telling me this? I didn't do anything illegal, repeatedly. Now, that doesn't mean, by the way, that Ben Armstrong was innocent. That meant that he didn't know what it was, and he kept asking Carlos Diaz, Larry Smith, what it was that he was doing. Now, there are no lawsuits filed against BJ Investments for anything. So, okay, just to understand. Now, Armstrong, in fear for his safety and that of his family, agreed to meet Diaz at a public place and sign the title to the Lamborghini, allowed to be transferred. Upon information and belief, Diaz obtained the original title of the Lamborghini from the office of BJ Investments through Shed. This is the same office of the business which was majority owned by Armstrong, but from which Armstrong was now wrongfully prohibited from accessing. Yet defendants had full access to all items contained in that office, whether business related or Armstrong's personal items, including but not limited to intellectual property. Armstrong believed, based on what had been told to him by Shed and Diaz, that the Lamborghini was being sold ostensibly for various reasons related to the businesses. Diaz transferred the Lamborghini into his individual name and sold it to Jim Ellis Cadillac Chambly dealership. Diaz further forged Armstrong's name on the documents. Diaz submitted to the Georgia Department of Revenue, claiming that he and Armstrong were biological brothers in order to receive a lesser transfer tax assessment. Armstrong and Diaz are not brothers, biological or otherwise. In 2021, Armstrong and Shed established a company named REBJ. For the purpose of their establishment, REBJ is owned by BJ Holdings, in which Armstrong is the 67% owner and Shed 33%. It created separate limited liability companies for each real property purchased. Ben Armstrong is the majority owner for each. Armstrong is aware of the following properties: 3102 Cobb Parkway, 3113 Clubhouse, 1173 Cool Spring, which we referred to these already before. Bo Mason assisted Shed in the illegal transfers of the real properties for the investment as described below. And then we have the list of the people. May 30, in furtherance of the RICO enterprise, Shed and others without the knowledge and or authority of Armstrong transferred the property to an entity created on January 31st, 2023, known as RETJ. So that's instead of REBJ, which was Ben and TJ. Armstrong did not approve the transaction and has no knowledge of whether any funds were paid by RETJ for the property. Armstrong has no ownership interest in RETJ, either individually or through BJ Investments. So a property that is owned by Ben Armstrong was transferred illegally out of his possession to someone else's possession by TJ Shed. 313 Clubhouse was established to purchase real property located at this location. The original operating agreement for Clubhouse LLC provided that it was managed by BJ Investment. The operating agreement was provided that only by unanimous member approval can the Clubhouse take certain actions, such as disposing of assets and amending its articles. On August 22, Shed, in violation of the Clubhouse operating agreement, amended the articles of organization to allow him to sell the Clubhouse property owned by the entity Armstrong had no knowledge of, nor had he approved any such amendment. Now, remember, at this point, Ben Armstrong is still the majority holder and controlling party. So, on information and belief, the defendants in furtherance of the RICO Epworth wrongfully selling or offering for sale the 313 Clubhouse property, 1173 Cool Springs. And we're seeing the same thing, by the way. I'm going to skip through some of this property here. But as you can see here, as we go down this list here, there's a bunch of this. This is all the properties here they're trying to sell off because they have to fund a business that they're failing at. That's what we should at least have consideration for. So count one, violation of the Georgia Racketeering, the RICO Act. And then this lays out exactly what they did, how they did it, how they accomplished it or attempted to accomplish it, and what they did. So this is the consideration. Then count two, violation of Computer Crimes Act. They've accessed his personal information. Conversion. Armstrong is the owner of certain personality, to wit, the Lamborghini, et cetera, et cetera. They attempted to extort basically from him. Breach of fiduciary duties for Shed. Then you have a continuation here. Appointment of a receiver, which is what they're looking for now. And that's what Ben is looking for at this point. By the way, the hearing will be on Friday. So as you can see here, we're going to close this out with that. So now, to add a little context for anybody who is paying attention to this and watching this whole thing play out, you can have whatever opinion you want to have of Ben Armstrong based on his transgression. I don't want to compare anybody, but this is he had a relationship with somebody outside of his marriage, a person that he is still with to this day. I might add, that does not mean that that they're going to be together forever or anything like that. It means that they are still together this day. It doesn't mean anything more than what I said that it means. I don't defend or condone or approve. Like it's not for me. I'm not a judge. I'm not a judge here. It's not my job to judge whether somebody did that. That's for you guys. You guys that don't like Ben Armstrong. If you don't like Ben Armstrong, you don't like anything that happened, and you think that he did everything wrong. You have an opinion because you don't like the fact that somebody once paid him to talk about a coin or a token or something like that. You don't like that. And that's sure. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you're a bad investor and you didn't make money on some meme coin randomly because BitBoy crypto said buy it, fine. You don't have to like it. However, everything that happened here is personal. It's not your business what happened. It's not my business what happened. The fact that we know what happened is because an organization, a group of people, took incredible liberties revealing personal details about the life and times of someone who they had no business revealing information about. Now, when I say that, I say that on a professional level. There are certain laws, there are certain statutes that are in place that allow a scumbag to be a scumbag, a dirtbag to be a dirtbag. There are plenty of laws. And it could be that you can make an argument that that the lady frame himself had a chance to tell everybody all the alleged bad things about an individual, because, I mean, listen, if you don't respect the sanctity of marriage and you're talking about somebody else's sanctity of marriage, you're a dirtbag, right? You're a hypocrite at best. and you're just trying to maybe clear out your own cobwebs. Those cobwebs probably smell really bad too. You got to think about that. The tiny, little tiny, Hezbollah, is that the person? Hezbollah, tiny. Like your what is his name? Andy Walton, I think his name was. That was the person that Allie was married to when TJ Shed started having an illicit affair with his own assistant, by the way. Which was, by the way, part of the reason that he said that Ben Armstrong wasn't able to perform the functions of his job, or reason that he had concerns about it, and paying her money. And we found out later that TJ Shed not only was having an affair, but he's also a lowbrow dirtbag liar who not only was she not being paid, she was actually being paid by the company that she negotiated the deal from. It didn't even come out of the pockets of the organization. Now, flash forward to recent times, and I want to show you something. I want to show you, there are a lot of people out here who probably are good people, right? There are a lot of people out here who are potentially good people, but this is what Discovery Crypto is now. Hit Networks is now Discover Crypto. And I want you to look at this comment right here. DC's fashion upgrade is outstanding. Suspenders. This by the way, this is I think this guy's name was Jake Joshua. He's a TikTok guy. They found a TikTok guy to make videos for them. Hopefully maybe to recapture some of that Ben Armstrong magic, thinking that this guy's somehow going to do that. And fair enough. I mean, the guy could be very popular, right? But a comment right here, DZ's fashion upgrade is outstanding. Suspenders and the hat and gives him a professional edge. And then right after that, DZ's fashion upgrade is outstanding. Suspenders and a hat enhances professionalism. So they're buying subscribers. They're buying comments on their YouTube channel because it's failing. But don't take my word. Just go for just kind of go down the list and you can just continue. I mean, you go look for the videos. Here we go. Getting promoted on this channel would be a smart move for any cryptocurrency project. The substantial views and engagement creating a promising environment for sponsored reviews. The audience is evidently interested in projects that endorse. And by the way, if you're ever looking for a scam, find somebody's name here that doesn't look like it's that it's from a from the United States potentially. It looks like it might come from a foreign land because there are a lot of foreign agencies right now that are doing these. But it's got 5 numbers at the back of its name. When it has like 4 or 5 numbers, that tends to be a scam. Like for example, here, well put together video. Actually, it might be a well put together video for all I know. I don't watch this trash on this dirtbag. But weird name, a bunch of letters. This looks like a real comment, by the way. Not all of them look like that, but I mean, guys, this, these dirtmongers are buying subscribers to try to protect the fact that they've lost a lot of subscribers, and they're deceiving you. They're deceitful. How isn't this the company? This company that's deceiving you and telling you they're buying subscribers. This company that's buying views, this company that's pretending that everything is fine to make it look like it in order to attract investors, the company that's doing this, the company whose CEO had an affair with, again, I don't know, I think it's Andy Walton, with Andy Walton's wife before causing them to get divorced. That guy, the guy who violated the trust of an employee in so much as if he is the director or leader or boss at an organization, revealed personal details to a non-employee in the organization, the manager of a company who revealed payroll information and lied to people because that person was not actually on the payroll. This type of lowbrow trash is the one that's using the moral compass. Just think about that. If you're subscribed to Discover Crypto or the Hit Networks or anything like that, and you're watching that content, again, you don't have to like Ben Armstrong to recognize that if you're supporting these people, you're kind of a hypocrite. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. It doesn't come across as any way but disrespectful. So I apologize. I don't want to say that because you don't want to like Ben Armstrong. You won't like Ben Armstrong. But if you don't like Ben Armstrong, you certainly shouldn't like Discover Crypto, because for everything that you say Ben Armstrong is, they really are. They actually are. In fact, it was just released from Altcoin Daily that TJ Shed was telling them he has no sponsors. He was telling them he was telling them that he needed to get ad revenue and stuff like that. Like, he was even telling them basically that this was getting ready to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's absolutely crazy what's going on here. And look, if you're not objective, fine. Like, you don't like Ben Armstrong, just keep dumping on Ben Armstrong. It's cool, you know, because you're engaging with him and it's content and it's still paying him. So go for it. You know what I mean? Do your thing, baby. But at the end of the day, if you are not a fan of Ben Armstrong, or me for that matter, and you are for Discover Crypto, what are you doing? Really? What are you doing? It's a little bit crazy. Now, everything I'm giving you now is my opinion. I'm never telling you what you should invest in. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm not giving you anything. All I'm doing is reading a lawsuit here, and I'm only reading one side of the allegations. I am sure that TJ doesn't like being talked to like, I mean, what he is. I mean, a philandering cheater. He probably doesn't like being talked to like a philandering cheater. It's also my understanding that he negotiated a $200,000 deal with Stake, or 250,000 with Stake. Cassie came in and got it up to $1 million. So TJ was about to screw the company. And you know, like, he's destroying a business step by step. And Ben Armstrong tried to stop him from destroying it. So he just took it into his own hands to destroy it in his own way. And then he brought aboard Nick Demondi to do it and help. And, you know, the people of talent, the people of value, the people that actually get the eyes, by the way, the eyes, just go look. The people that got the eyes, AJ, Ben, J Chains, they're gone. And they're working together. And, you know, J Chains and Ben had problems and, you know, things like that, right? But it seems like they worked everything out. So is Ben Armstrong the problem? Again, I can't tell you who to like. I can tell you that if you don't like Ben, fine. If it's a bridge too far, if your morals tell you that you shouldn't like Ben Armstrong, how are your morals telling you should like Discover Crypto? That doesn't make any sense. What does make sense, however, is for you to look objectively and relook objectively at what's going on right here, and start with this. They try to steal a company from a man. They try to sell the property off to continue to fund their enterprise before paying the man that they stole the company from. You shouldn't be okay with that. I'm not telling you what to do, but you shouldn't be okay with that. My opinion. If your problem with Ben Armstrong is his quote unquote affair with Cassandra Wolf, the person that to this day he is still with, then why are you watching TJ Shed's dirtbag organization? And did you let Andy Walton know that? Again, I don't remember the guy's name, but I think it was Andy something. You know, it was her husband. Did you stop watching them because of that? Because that's what he did. Was it the steroids? Because if that was the case, it turns out steroids don't work on lady frames, because for some reason this dude has no muscles. He looks like a child. Come on. If that was that it? Did it hurt when Ben Armstrong took a drug test and it came back negative for all major substances because he doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs? Did it hurt? You know, or did you ignore that? You know, right? And if it was the steroids, you know, wasn't DZ? Didn't he say DZ, TJ? They were all doing it too. That Ben was just getting it for everybody. I mean, there are a lot of things here, and if you're siding with somebody in this dispute, That's if there's anybody you should be siding with, it should be the guy that had their company stolen from them. You cannot like the company, you can unsubscribe from the company and not watch it because you don't like Ben Armstrong. But your antithesis to that shouldn't be, I'm going to watch Discover Crypto. That's out of control. That's nonsense. So anyway, but again, that's me kind of preaching to you and telling you what I think you should do, and it is really not my place. Right now, I'm just meandering and kind of ranting at this point because I've been in the middle of this for a long time, watching this unfold. And Ben Armstrong became my friend a while back, and I'm going to defend him all day long. Okay, because I think that he was robbed. Now, I am partnered with BenCoin. I'm the head of community communication. So I do have quote unquote skin in the game, but that skin in the game, that started less than 30 days. Like that's 30 days ago. This is brand new to me. I've been defending Ben Armstrong, not because of that. I've been defending Ben Armstrong because these scumbags tried to rip him off. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I know I'm ranting quite a bit, but guys, I'm very passionate about this, and I think that you should be too. And if you're not, okay. If you don't like Ben, okay. Not my place to tell you what you should or shouldn't like. But I'm going to tell you what you should or shouldn't like, and this should infuriate you, and you should just be unsubscribing from Discover Crypto, because the only thing that they've discovered is how to rip people off. The only thing that they've discovered is how to have illicit affairs and ruin marriages. The only thing that they've done is lose all of their sponsors. The only thing that they've done is buy subscribers. The only thing they've done is buy comments. And they're doing it lying to you. And you shouldn't accept that. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And we'll talk to you again soon.